Good day to you. The news from the Persian Gulf is grim. Iran, U.S. make competing claims over control of Strait of Hormuz. Reuters reporting, Europeans. Subhead, the Strait of Hormuz is, quote, under Iran's control and management, end quote. That's a statement by the Iran besieged paramilitary unit, the leader of. President Trump said the United States a day earlier had total control of the strategic waterway. Competing claims, says Reuters. The fact of the matter is the Strait of Hormuz is not open. It has moments where there are attacks. It has other moments where ships pass through. It's willy-nilly. I cannot organize it. But the fact that Reuters is ready to claim that there are competing remarks by, on the one hand, the President of the United States, on the other hand, a man said to be speaking for the besieged, which is not even a military unit. It's a gang, bully boys who beat up children. Tells you what Iran thinks of President Trump's remarks. The Strait of Hormuz is not open. How does this translate? If you're paying $4 or more for a gallon of gasoline, that's the translation. Paul Krugman, formerly of the New York Times, now I think he's emeritus at CCNY, writes a column I routinely read from Substack, and I recommend it all too. It costs a little money, not much, and is very helpful to understand where the opposition to President Trump is going, anticipating the midterm election, anticipating 28, and anticipating a lot of investigations, presuming all goes well in the House of Representatives. Paul Krugman writes that the price of gasoline is in fact extremely high and going to stay there, if not go higher. Gasoline, $4 plus, diesel, $5 plus. Why? Because it's not about buying a barrel of crude oil. It's about that barrel of crude oil being converted into what you need, which in America's case is gasoline. In Europe's case is diesel. There's also aviation fuel needs. There are other needs of petroleum products. 25% of that barrel of oil goes to petrochemicals, plastics. We need that as well. Price of refined gasoline has risen dangerously. You wonder why Brent crude, Europeans pay Brent crude for a barrel of oil, isn't higher than $90 a barrel. It doesn't have to be, because processing that makes it a premium not only for the barrel of oil in the Hormuz Strait, but a premium for the product of refined diesel, much higher than you would ordinarily pay if the Hormuz Strait was open. So prepare for the next 80 days, summer season fading into the end of driving season, for oil to stay, for gasoline to stay high, and for airlines to complain about their ticket prices. Certainly the Europeans are in a much weaker place than the US because they don't have access to barrels of oil unless they pay for it. China pays for it at a discount because it can. India pays for it at a discount because it can. India suffers the irony of having to pay for a discounted barrel of oil, and then they get to sell the refined product back to Russia because Russia doesn't have enough refineries to keep up with its demand of its people and its allies. The irony here is so deep that the Vice President of the United States, Mr. Vance, had to plead with Mr. Zelensky not to attack a Russian port in the Black Sea as getting crude oil out to customers, because every attack drove up the price of crude, and that drives up the price of refined products, diesel in Europe's case, gasoline here. Everything that Ukraine does maintains or drives the price of gasoline higher. Everything that North Korea does as well, sending 30,000 troops to Ukraine to fight the Ukraine war. Everything that China, well, I won't get into China because they have a huge reserve and they were preparing for this for a long time, and they're getting a discount on Russian oil. All of this adds up to no relief between now and the election, no relief between now and the end of time, unless the Strait of Hormuz opens. And I welcome my good friend and colleague, Jim McTague, formerly Washington editor of Barron's, now a novelist in Lancaster County, to address the matter of Hormuz Gulf and Congress. His measure of Washington, is it capable of ending this conflict and acknowledging that Iran has won the contest and that Iran's demands to charge a toll on the Strait of Hormuz is acceptable? That would end this conflict and open up the strait. Jim, very good day to you. I've been going over Paul Krugman's calculation, which is also a calculation I have with my good friend Michael Bernstam, that the price of oil and the price of gasoline are high and can go higher, but are not likely to retreat in any fashion. Is Washington capable, Congress capable, the apparatus in Washington capable of acknowledging reality and moving on it effectively? Or are the American people going to suffer these high prices because the knuckleheads in Washington won't admit we lost?
John, I see a repeat of Lyndon Johnson's mistakes. He wanted guns, he wanted butter, and it led to massive 10 years of inflation. I think we're on the threshold of a huge inflationary spike. What President Trump will do in the run-up to the elections, I hypothesize, is that he will declare victory and withdraw our troops. Because the big story is the depletion of the U.S. arsenal. So it leaves us vulnerable to the machinations of Russia and China. It's a very dangerous time for our country. I also predict that there will be some kind of an attack on our homeland from Iran. And this will wake up the people at home as to our new vulnerability because of the missteps in the Middle East. So again, I see Trump declaring victory, pretending that we won in the run-up to the midterm elections.
The price of gasoline. Let's be specific here.
Mm-hmm.
Price of gasoline. My understanding of Mr. Krugman's presentation is that it's not retreating. It's, if anything, going higher. How do you measure it?
Well, it will, but human nature being what it is. I live in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Now, in Washington, D.C., I hardly drove at all. I walked everywhere, took public transit. Up here, people need a car for everyday activities, and they're driving like maniacs. I mean, remember when Richard Nixon was president, they had they imposed a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit on the highways to conserve gasoline. People drive 55 miles an hour on the back roads here. They're driving 75 on the highways with a posted speed of 55. So it's not really hitting them hard. It's hitting them in the pocketbooks, but not hard enough yet to change wasteful behavior. My own calculations, like when I try to assess whether it's better to buy a traditional car engine or a hybrid, is that to make the price differential worthwhile for a hybrid, gasoline would have to be $6 a gallon or higher. So I agree with Krugman. I see gasoline going into the fives. And when it hits 6, that's when you have the populace rise up and demand the heads of the people in Washington.
Is your measure Washington capable of continuing the denialism?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's built into the Trump system, denialism. It's bob and weave. It's deny reality and create an alternate reality. And if you repeat the alternate reality often and loudly enough, the public will buy it. and it has worked for him up to this point. But I just see I just don't see the enthusiasm. This is Trump country, Lancaster County. I don't see the enthusiasm for him, nor do I see enthusiasm for the Democrats, because people are still not embracing the left wing social agenda. The social agenda still looms large, even though the Democrats are trying to play it down. So what I find is that people are just turned off by politics, period. And it could translate into low voter turnout in the midterms, which would be to the advantage of the Democrats.
So what you're suggesting is a sense of powerlessness. There's nothing we can do about the price of gasoline. Gasoline is everything, Jim. That's inflation right there.
That's yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you have to transport all the goods. Petroleum is an element of plastics and an array of products. You're right. The price of gas impacts the price of almost every consumer good.
And because it's not retreating and not going to be solved quickly, and your ifs, they're not happening, Jim. If Trump does this, if Iran does that, what we have today is going to continue. A standoff. The U.S. Navy versus the Iranian willingness to suffer. I don't know whether there's a way to put it more bluntly than that, but the Persians are very good at struggling, have been throughout their tradition, because they've been often under attack, and certainly they're under attack now. They're good at struggling. It rallies them. The bombing campaign of June 25 and the bombing campaign of February through right now has made the resistance stronger in Iran, not weaker. There's no romantic rising at the Bastille of revolutionaries who are going to cut the heads off of the IRGC. That's not realistic. That's comic book thinking. So I come back to the American people are going to pay for this. And I don't know if that is apparent. I can't tell. There's still a presumption that gasoline's going up and that it will retreat when there's what? What is the fairy tale that people tell themselves about gasoline that makes them indifferent to the outcome of an election?
Yeah, they think that the prices will come down. I mean, they still, the stock market, not just the people, react positively to every sort of statement that comes out of Washington regarding the progress, in quotes, of the war. We have control of the strait. The stock market goes up, even though that's false on its face. So the public and the stock market wants to be deceived. They see. I don't know, how could I define it? I mean, it's profitable for Wall Street to be deceived. As for the general public, I don't know what the thinking is.
Well, you get through the day and you buy a gallon of gasoline, and you hold back on some other purchases. That's what happens.
Mm-hmm. And I can see it locally. Our economy is flat here. I just see a lot of reluctance on the part of consumers to unleash their animal spirits.
Wall Street is not happy and not going to be happy because they're putting in record profits now, have been through the S&P 500. And Warsh is responsible for the Federal Reserve's interest rates. He wants to go one way, which is to tighten. And Wall Street's going to be demanding the other way, loosen, when and if the inflation moderates or doesn't moderate. Right now, it looks to be moderating, but it's coming. We know that. Everybody knows that. All right. I want a full stop here. No more despair. I want to celebrate with you a revelation I've had, thanks to the Pope, the encyclical Humanitas that was issued some weeks ago, is now going to be published by Penguin. You were my lead on this, Jim, because you read through the encyclical when we talked about artificial intelligence some weeks ago. And you're a very good Roman Catholic to have gotten the encyclical and read through it. I'm a very good Protestant, so I didn't until recently. And the Pope is a very shrewd man. He's anticipated something that we live with, which is the anxiety of the future. The Pope talks about Nimrod. Nimrod is a character in the book of Genesis and the book of Chronicles. It's seen as darkness visible, the threat of the man who builds the Tower of Babel. And the Pope compares artificial intelligence to the possibility of it being the Tower of Babel. It's wonderful language, Jim. I mean, it's sensational. I thought to myself, does the Pope write science fiction? Does Leo? I mean, he is a man of Chicago. He knows what science fiction is. Not that he's being unrealistic. I think he's translating metaphorically what the risk is. Every day, I hear the headlines out of Silicon Valley, and the question is always asked, is this real? Is this a bubble? Are we headed into a catastrophe? And Jim, after a year of asking that question, no one has an answer that they're satisfied with. Do you hear an answer to that question?
No, although I personally think it's a bubble. Bubbles are great. They make you feel good. It's dopamine for your portfolio. But it is a bubble. I've been thinking, the public's resistance to data centers, especially among Republicans who usually are pro-business. I think there's an element here of it's not anti-technology, it's anti-billionaire. And it's sort of like, not in my backyard. You billionaires are putting this nuisance in my backyard that will erode my quality of life, that will erode my real estate value. You have to pay for this if you want to come in here. I mean, there's this. Americans are becoming Robespierres when it comes to data centers. So there's an element of class warfare at work here as well. And I think this is why why I see a bubble, the enthusiasm about investing in data centers hasn't dimmed yet, because the trillionaires don't appreciate the level of anger and anxiety amongst the public. The Pope gets it, they don't get it.
Now, I have to press you on this, because all bubbles are not bubbles the same way. Bubbles can be enthusiasm that needs to be trimmed, not a collapse. I'm presuming that you do not believe that AI is not real. It's a question of how are we overpaying for it? Are we forcing it upon America that is not demanding it? Are we selling gold leaf and not gold? What kind of bubble do you mean?
Well, right now, I see it like it's the early days of the auto industry, when the adoption of the automobile was slow. It was the wealthy people.
Right.
It was the set in Rhode Island that adopted the cars before the general public did. So we don't have public acceptance of AI yet. It's still primitive. The general public doesn't know how it would use AI and how it would benefit from AI. So I think AI is real, but I think we probably are overbuilding it because it doesn't have a large enough consumer base yet. That will come. But the enthusiasm anticipating this consumer base is hyped right now. So I agree with people who predict that a lot of the data centers going up now will end up being pickleball courts, because the demand just hasn't developed yet.
My memory is that in 1994, I was on a book tour in Florida, Miami Book Fair. I was a novelist then. And I remember the presentation by the Miami Herald or the Miami newspaper, whatever it was at the time. They treated me very nicely, and they treated other books their book fair.
Mhm.
And I thought, this is all going to disappear because the internet was fresh to me. I'd spent earlier part of that year at the University of California at Irvine, where that was the cradle, Irvine, of Yahoo and other internet providers. Early on, this is when it was all text. There was no mouse. There was no window, all text. And I remember thinking, I was a smart guy, that all this is going to go away and that the stocks will disappear and the future is all going to be digital. I think I was carrying a BlackBerry at the time. Maybe not. No, I wouldn't have been. I had no portable device. Everything was still text-based. I was 30 years early, Jim. 30 years. That's not much in history time, but it's a whole lot in a human being's time. 30 years. We're early on AI. Do you
Mhm.
agree? We're early.
Yes, we're way again. I look at it. The greatest technological innovation for the average person in the 20th century was the automobile. So again, I'm using the analogy that we're in a stage comparable to like 1900 when automobiles were being introduced. Only the rich could afford them, and the technology, while dazzling, wasn't all that useful because the engines were not that dependable and there were no roads at the time. There was no highway system. So that's where we are with artificial intelligence. We have a few serious users. Most of us are dabblers. We haven't really learned or been taught how to profitably employ artificial intelligence. It scares huge swaths of the population because the purveyors have previously told us that it will put us out of work, turn us all into paupers. And so this has created resistance as opposed to adoption. And my point again is this resistance will burst the bubble. It will not derail artificial intelligence. I think there's a future for AI, and it's a future that will be wonderful for us in the end, but we don't see it now. And the angst of the moment will burst the investment bubble in the early days.
To the encyclical, the Pope, Papa Leone, as the Italians have taught me to say, anticipates that it's going to be used for warfighting.
Mm-hmm.
And that the insistence here is that it not cut human being out of the decision line. I believe that's a worthy ambition, but it's already too late. Warfighting, of course, will be how it's used because it can manage huge amounts of data in moments and make decisions on the basis of what the other guy's AI is handling the same data, all of that. And because the Pope is pleading for it not to happen, not to allow that to happen, we can presume that's exactly what's going to happen. Who makes these decisions to take human beings out of the decision loop of war fighting? It's the oligarchs, right? I mean, there's no one else. There's no government bigger than the oligarchs. Do you agree with that?
I do. Well, I mean, it's also U.S. government decision makers. I believe that when the history of
Wait,
the city,
wait, I want to make sure I understand. You believe that the U.S. government is capable of in some fashion controlling Silicon Valley oligarchs?
no, I think the Pentagon can decide to use AI in warfare. And I think that when we do an autopsy of the fiasco in Iran, we will find that Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, And the US and the Israelis employed AI to structure the campaign against Iran, which has failed miserably. That's my prediction. So I think AI already is being used in warfare, and we just don't know about it yet. So the Pope's fears, it's kind of like he's trying to close, the old adage, he's trying to close the barn door, but the horses are already out.
About the resentment of the oligarchs. Now that's recognizable resentment of the lords. Put it in romantic terms, the copper bosses, right? We always have copper bosses. They killed Joe Hill, but they can't kill us. Okay. The copper bosses are unaware of their own, they're unaware that we have contempt for them. They don't live their day thinking, I'm hated. But they are, Jim. The copper bosses have always been hated. What's that going to translate into? Do you see that?
Well, higher taxes if the Democrats get in control. I mean, because again, we need higher taxes because the Trump administration has just spent the country. It's made the country pretty much penniless. The federal government is running a huge deficit.
Yeah.
I can't continue. And the way you end deficits is growth, but immediately you need higher taxes. So it's gonna be.
You believe that?
Mess.
All the copper bosses? I don't. They're above the law.
Well, I think we'll have a backlash in Washington. The Justice Department will go after them. The Justice Department has become a political arm of whatever party is in power. So if the Democrats gain power, if they can come up with a presidential candidate who appeals to the mass middle, you could have the Justice Department go after these people for whatever they feel like, to wring cash out of them to try to reduce our deficit.
I acknowledge that you're regarding the president's party as not worthy of reducing the deficit or dealing with the debt. That possibly is a good read, but I'm a little taken aback by the fact that you have confidence that the government can control the trillionaires.
No, the government can make life miserable for the trillionaires, and it can, extort money from them. It can't defeat them, but it can extort, and that's what's going to happen. You're going to have political extortion to get money to pay down our debt.
Well, the debt. The senators being elected now are going to have to deal with the limits of the safety net, Medicare and Medicaid. Chiefly Social Security goes dramatically troubled in 6 years. What does that mean to everybody? Your Social Security check will be reduced 20% right away. Bang. And after that, things get even worse. Now, so people are voting for the senator who will have to make that decision, or not, who can continue to pay the interest and reduce Social Security even more. But Jim, the trillionaires, they don't care about Social Security. They don't care about the debt. They'll pay whatever is necessary to get rid of government factoring. Correct?
Correct. They pay off the lobby. I mean, we do not live in a capitalist society. We live in a crony capitalist society.
Yes, yes.
So you can own congressmen. I imagine that the billionaires go to their club and they brag about how many congressmen they have in their pockets or how many senators.
Sure, but that's the way it's always been with the oligarchs. Mm-hmm. Are the oligarchs part of you said cars, you use the analogy of the car. They had them as well. Henry Ford comes to mind, a man whose contemptible opinions of other human beings was known at the time. It wasn't a secret. He was an outrageous anti-Semite, outrageously anti-Catholic. I mean, he was everything you could imagine a villain being.
Yeah, in fact, Adolf Hitler had his portrait, Henry Ford's portrait, in his office. That's how wonderful Henry Ford was.
And he was celebrated, and he was beyond the law. Now, there were a number of other names that are associated with other vehicles. Is that where we are with the AI? In other words, I could name them, but everybody knows their names. They're the Henry Fords of our time.
Yes, exactly. And, people, they believe they're geniuses too. I mean, when you listen to their pronouncements, they think that somehow the more money you have, the higher your IQ. But when you listen to what they're actually saying, they're saying some really stupid things. Now they're positioning themselves to counteract the bubble. The head of Facebook, Mark Zuckerman, is talking about
Zuckerberg
a new approach to rolling out data centers that is more community friendly. He's talking about it. He's not done anything about it, but I think they sense that an uprising is coming and they have to take steps to protect their necks.
Well, I think the uprising is already in Lancaster County.
It's all over the country, John. It's not just in Pennsylvania.
But Columbia boroughs resistance to the money that they're turning away. That's a revolt.
It is, because I visited the site. I drove on it, got mud all over my car.
Explain, Jim, what we're talking about.
Well, there's a borough along the Susquehanna River in Pennsylvania, Columbia. It used to be in the 1700s. It was a gateway to the West. You had to ferry across the Susquehanna River to get into the Western territories. It's down and out town right now. The housing stock is late 19th century.
What's it look like? 1 stories, 2 stories?
Two story, like every kind of coal town you drive through on the East Coast. Rundown housing, row housing.
Cars on blocks?
Well, not that destitute. It's a solid blue collar neighborhood. Between the town and the river are railroad lines, and
flatbed trucks, a lot of gasoline.
Along Route 30, but in the town itself, no, there's, little Main Street. It's not thriving at all. You hardly see any people on the street.
Any franchises?
Well, Turkey Hill has its headquarters on the edge of town. That's a big gas and go place, and they also are a big ice cream manufacturer. It's very popular ice cream in Pennsylvania. But on the edge of town is an abandoned airfield where somebody proposed putting a data center. And around the airfield, there's the fire department, there's this clapboard housing. There's one street where a developer is building new townhomes right on the periphery. So those houses would be impacted by the noise of a data center. The town has just come out and said, we just oppose any data center. And I'm thinking they're crazy because they didn't try to work out a deal where the data center would compensate surrounding homeowners for any distress or devaluation of their properties, which are already not worth much except for the new townhomes. So, but it's just...
My memory is that you said the data center proposed to pay them $800,000 a year for their budget, and they need it.
Oh, that was it would be about that. That's an estimate. And they would buy the land, which the township owns now and is losing money on. They would buy the land off the township for $6 million. And I think it costs the township close to $1 million a year to maintain this property. And, but again, they just have a dream that some boutique manufacturer of drones will come into the town and save it. And it's pure fantasy. It's not, they're not realistic. So This is what I see across the country, is that the opposition doesn't sit back and say, hey, wait a minute, we have some leverage here and we might be able to get some of these Silicon Valley oligarchs to share the profits with us. If they want a data center in our backyard, we need a payoff. You don't see that. It's just stay out of our backyard. We don't want you.
But now let's come to the well-to-do part of the county where you are. The data center that is going up from Costco will be ready in 27, correct?
Yes. It's already in it. It's a former printing plant at the edge of an industrial park that borders Route 30, a major highway through town. So the surrounding homes have always lived next to industrial plants.
We're looking at a one-time payment of the build-out, several $1 million, and then $2 million a year for the tax base in Lancaster County. In other words, a terrific deal for the county and the city, correct?
Especially for the city, which had been under financial distress.
And everybody jumped at this one. There's no resistance. So the richest part of Lancaster County, the part that needs it least, says, go ahead, build not just one, but two. There'll be a second one going up when the first one is done. The poorest part of Lancaster County says no. That's upside down, Jim.
It is. And that's why I think it's mostly class resistance. It's not rationality. Again, a rational person would try to milk the deal. And instead of sitting down and trying to negotiate, they just they get the pitchforks out and drive the proposers out of town.
All right, let's go back to the Pope's encyclical. Do you see this a document of action? Penguin's going to print it. It's going to be available for a book for everybody to read. It's very well written. Do you see this being a script for action, or just another document where we fall short of its aspirations?
Well, it'll be a discussion document, and we'll fall short of its aspirations. I mean, but I think the biggest question he raises, and it's one we all have, is who are the people, and what is the moral fiber of the people who are building out the AI? Who are the ethicists that are programming it, and how diligent are they? So, my own experience with AI, I've told this story, is that Dave McCormick, who is a Pennsylvania senator, asserts that a lot of the resistance among the public to data centers is generated by misinformation spread by the Chinese on social media, because the Chinese are building out their data centers and they want to retard the growth of data centers in the US because of the strategic implications of artificial intelligence. So I asked Gemini, which is Google's AI, if Dave McCormick was right. Was there a smoking gun that showed that the Chinese were distorting the message here in the US? And Gemini said, absolutely not. There's no smoking gun. And when I asked it for its sources, it gave me a Chinese communist publication that's headquartered in Beijing. So how you can't trust Gemini? Who's programming Gemini? The Chinese? Who's giving AI moral direction? We don't know who these people are. And that's one of the questions the Pope is raising. He thinks that the whole process should be more open, that more people should be included in the discussion and the development of AI. And I think he's absolutely right. We're just letting people like Mark Zuckerberg build a team, and these people have questionable morals, these oligarchs, and we don't know who they're picking for their team. So it's very undemocratic, and it's blinded in a sense, because Silicon Valley is picking its own people. It's not including people from other walks of life.
Can you see us deconstructing the data centers? Say 2050. We don't need data centers so big, or we're not using what we thought we needed? You see that? We've
Yeah,
got,
I mean, they're only Quonset huts. I
yeah.
mean, when you look at real estate across the country, I mean, I live in a senior citizen, over 55 development that popped up on a cornfield. When you look at new housing in America, it's easily bulldozed. So it's the same with data centers. We can easily bulldoze them and repurpose the land. They're just Quonset huts with a lot of computers inside.
So we can deconstruct the way we did strip malls that were overbuilt when the recession hit in '08. We can undo them and then do them again in a new location.
Yeah, or downsize them, or turn the field back to a cornfield. That's not a problem.
I will discuss this with Claudette, the idea of turning back. Now, I've been studying Stanford lectures about AI. I know it's dangerous to have partial knowledge of a subject that's this complicated. But what I've learned, Jim, is that AI is in fact us. It draws on us as a source, and it learns from us what vocabulary to use in any given sentence and makes the decision on the basis of what is the logical choice for the next word. That's what it does. So when I say Iranian photojournalist faces 15 years in prison over images, and I say to Claudette, do you tell me what he did and who he is and why? Claudette will find that answer by just going to the statements about it and making decisions on the basis of what's the next word to tell John what he wants to know. It doesn't mean Claudette thinks it's real or true. It means that it's logically the way that it should be answered. If I asked it again if I asked Claudette with more information, there'd be a different answer. Now, that's useful if you're doing quick work the way we do, because you can tell the difference between the answer that Claudette is giving and the answer that we would give if we had time to do the research. And you reject. Last night, Claudette kept misordering the presentation I was making in my table of contents. And I would just simply write incorrect. She would apologize and do it again. AI is not a superior intelligence. Is that well known, Jim?
I think so. It's takes a path of least resistance, first of all. So
Yes.
it gets most of its answers from Wikipedia, which is questionable.
That's data. I'm talking about the logic of talking to us.
Well, the logic is it thinks inside the box because it's looking at our existing cache of knowledge
And
in a limited sense.
How we use words. Right now, Claudette is typing McTague. Him again. I know how he's going to talk. She's listening.
Because I'm a big fan of Washington Irving. He wrote a lot of wonderful histories. He wrote a life of George Washington, for example, that I think is exquisite because of the detail. Washington Irving was probably our first great magazine journalist. And when he wrote The Life of Washington, he actually interviewed soldiers who had fought alongside Washington. But I don't know if it's still true, but when I asked AI for sections of Washington Irving, it didn't have access to them. It had limited access to anything that had been printed before, say, 1970. So when I say that AI thinks inside the box, it's limited to existing knowledge, which is vast. It's really useful, as you say. I compare it to an encyclopedia, a talking Encyclopedia Britannica. However, it's not intelligent. It doesn't create. It doesn't foresee. It's human beings still have a huge advantage over AI.
That's the Pope's point, and the Pope makes the point, but also something I've discovered that's a fun fact. AI doesn't know about mortality, doesn't understand that we are not the same person when we're 50 that we were when we were 12. It thinks that at 12, we're building themes that we're going to be able to follow through the rest of our life, as if we were a machine. Jim McTague at 12 is not Jim McTague at 50. We can agree on this.
Yes.
Claudette would not know that unless you told her.
I wish I was 50, John. I'm 77.
Well, I was reminding you that you're not the person you are at 50 right now.
Definitely not.
So there's severe limitations to AI. Severe. Something that doesn't understand mortality is limited in its understanding of what you want to know from it. Something that regards our 12-year-old self as predicting our 50 or 75-year-old self is not a useful, but it is useful for how we use it, Jim. And it is, and of course the oligarchs are enjoying talking about it, breaking in and breaking out and exceeding the expectations, not paying attention to the defensive walls that we've constructed in the internet. They boast about this, but that has no meaning. Finding a zero year or an opening or a weakness in a program, what is that? That has no meaning. It can't translate into anything but the specific needs of a company you hire to protect your secrets. That's all. When it comes to AI functioning as an independent intelligence, I don't see it, Jim. The Pope doesn't see it. Do you see it?
No, you would expect. Well, here's one of my measures of, is AI really intelligent? One of the quests of science would be to develop a glass that is as strong and pliant as a plastic bottle and as light as a plastic bottle. And theoretically, that's possible, but it hasn't happened. Another big scientific quest, when I talk to military people, is an aircraft that can fly in and out of the atmosphere, like as if it were nothing. That hasn't happened. My point is, we haven't seen any great innovations that we can attribute to artificial intelligence. It's not happening, and it might be because we don't know how to use the tool properly yet. I think it's because artificial intelligence is deficient. To your point, it just guesses. It tries to predict. It's not thinking. It's like a dog fetching a stick. You throw the stick, it brings it back.
It's a really cool game, however. I have a lot of fun with it.
Well, I do too. I do too. It's quick. It's dirty, but it's if you're doing research and you ask for its sources, the sources are very disappointed. You're not going to find that it's going through every aisle of the Library of Congress and looking up the top publications to answer your question. It's going to, again, like Wikipedia.
Nor does it have, because I don't use it for facts generally. I use it for organizing my material. It listens to my reporting, and then I tell it, tell me what I said in 25 words. I can do that adequately, the way you and I would write a headline. It can do it in 25 words. All right. But I've learned that it doesn't have up-to-date knowledge in some areas. In some areas, it can poke at it. For example, there's a mystery. Not a mystery. There's an unknown. Cosmology. Hubble has picked up, and then the Webb Space Telescope has vouchsafed. There are these phenomena that they call little red dots that have shown up in very early universe. And there are 3 guesses as to what they are. I won't go through the 3 guesses because it's diverting. So I asked Claudette, what are the little red dots? All Claudette could do was repeat to me what I already knew about them. That's it. That's not smart. That's echoing what is available in the trade books, the trade press, Nature and Science magazine that I read. And it stated it in language that I could understand because that's all we have right now. We don't have the physics of the little red dots. We don't know what they are. There are lots of them, They could be early galaxies. They could be black holes. They could be a distortion in the field, the way we see them. We don't know. But Claudette doesn't know. Now, I think the Pope is aware of this. And I think he's trying to convey it in a fashion that's helpful. That Nimrod doesn't know more than you do. Did you get that from reading the encyclical?
I did. I also got from the encyclical that he's in favor of open access to AI, whereas Silicon Valley is saying these have to be closely guarded national secrets because AI is an existential threat to our existence, and we have to have the best AI to protect us from the evil AIs. And the Pope is essentially saying that's a bunch of hooey. You're just trying to hoard the AI for yourselves to enrich yourselves. If you want a better, a more humane AI, if you can have a humane AI, you have to let more people develop it. The Chinese seem to have acquiesced because they came out with AI and they opened it up to the world. So, that's what the Pope envisioned. He doesn't want a clutch of these oligarchs, as you described them, controlling AI. He wants it to be democratized.
Jim McTague is former Washington editor of Barron's magazine, and he's always predicting on me. I write these predictions down. Now a novelist in Lancaster County. He's let that novel thing go to his head, predicting that we're in a bubble. That's always a good prediction, Jim. We're always in a bubble. We will continue. This is the Friends of History Debating Society. I've enjoyed reading the Pope's encyclical, and I recommend it to everyone. Penguin's going to make it easy. It will be available on Kindle. It will be available on audible.com. So you can just listen to it. It take a few minutes, not much. And if you don't know who Nimrod is, you can look him up. He was the man who built the Tower of Babel, and that did not end well. And war fighting, we'll get more of that because right now they're claiming national security when you ask those questions. We'll come back to it. Jim McTague in Lancaster, and we'll get the business report of Lancaster in 24 hours from now, because this county is a way to watch the Pennsylvania economy, and that's a way to watch the national economy. Right now, it is not positive about the price of a gallon of gasoline, not positive at all. I'm John Batchelor, and the Romans are ready. Let me get them here, Jim. The Roman Orchestra will play for us, and thank you. See you in 23 hours.